there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I've got some fun crafts coming up for you. What are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on some country farmhouse style spring Easter crafts. Let's get started with project number 1. For this project, I'm using this mini rolling pin. You can find them at like Hobby Lobby, couple dollars, and a couple of these boards. They're like wood book boards, 5.5 by 7.5. You get from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use them in 2 separate pieces. You could use one continuous piece if you want, but I want to split it in 2 and do something fun for the body, which is going to be the mini rolling pin. So I've got half of a butterfly here, and I'll cut that, I'll cut that out and then flip it and cut it out on the other side. I do have a free printable for you where there's half the butterfly, and then I've got it where it's a full butterfly if you didn't want to do something for the body and you wanted to cut it out in its entirety. And as you saw there at the bottom, I've got it flat at the bottom of those boards, and that's so that our butterfly stands up. Now, if you didn't have a rolling pin, like the top half of a paint stick has a really cool shape for the middle of a butterfly if you wanted to do that. So whether you cut it out in half pieces or a whole piece, link to my blog in the description box. Printable is there for you. So here I am, just a little bit cutting with my jigsaw. I just like to show you a little bit of that process. I know through a lot of these DIY videos I will always kind of show like cutting or sanding or painting or sewing, and we all know how to do it, but it's just part of the process, and I want you to see that I am indeed doing it myself, unless I contract my husband to do it. So cutting out the butterfly here. I just got 1/2 done, but they're both done. Then I'm going to come in and just sand it really well. I'm not going to sand that straight spot a little bit. I'm just going to off the sides get any splinters or anything like that, because if you sand it, then we might have the thing where we sand it a little bit off and then it doesn't want to stand up on its own. So careful when you sand that flat spot. Here it is all done and ready to go, and then I'm going to put the rolling pin in the middle like I said. Now there's only a thin little spot on both sides where I'm going to glue, because I want to go ahead and lift the wings up so they're kind of tilted upwards. So I'm going to have a little less gluing surface, but we'll take care of that. I'll show you that later. So I've already cut the papers for the bottom, and this is an old paper stack, so I didn't bother putting that in for you because you can't find it. I've tried. So it's these 2 pieces from the paper stack. It is die cuts with a view. Got it at Joann's probably 10 years ago, and I really wanted to find that for you, and you're going to see why in a minute. So how I did the bottom is the top obviously traced both ends, and then I come in about 1/8 of an inch and I redraw the perimeter pattern of those pieces. Like I said, when you saw, the bottom is done, doing it exactly like this for the top. And I'll just kind of bring it in because I want to show a little bit of that wood perimeter. You could go all the way to the end. You could cover it with paper. You could just paint it however you want to do it. And then, of course, I'm going ahead and cutting out that new pattern perimeter. And then so this is how it'll lay, the bottom, and then the top just kind of comes right over the top like that. Okay, covers that bottom just a little bit, doing this on both sides. That's why that bottom pattern I kind of brought up a little bit so no wood will show in the center when you lay the bottom, and then the top over that, it covers it all up. Now I'm going to take both those pieces and I'm going to use some batting here because I want it to look a little bit poofy. I want to give it that farmhouse style. So I'm just kind of taping the 2 pieces together and then tracing it out, backwards onto the batting. I'll do it for both sides. And then, of course, cut that piece of batting out. And I'm going to trim it just like a tiny bit shorter than the paper just so it's not seen. So I'm laying both of those on the top here. Okay, and if you're a gluer, you're going to glue that down if you want. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is this paper, look, it's got a sticky back because it's actually fabric backed paper. I know I really wanted to find it for you, but I just don't think they make it anymore. But if it wasn't sticky, not a big deal. You can use fabric or paper, and if you want to use batting, and just glue it to your batting. Okay, and then of course I'm going to do that on both sides. I'm going to just set it aside for a minute. We'll come back to it. I'm going to use this Beacon Quick Grip Glue. I've decided where I want my wings to set on here. It's only about 1/4 inch wide on both sides, but we'll fix that. And I like the Beacon Quick Grip Glue. I'm standing it upright to do it so that I can, make my wings kind of diagonal on to the center of that rolling pin. But it just takes like 10 minutes or so to set up so you can move it around, and then it's 24 hours to fully cure. All right, coming back to the fabric or paper, whatever you want to use. I'm sewing around it with my sewing machine. Now, if you're a gluer and you want to add some stitches, you could do some hand stitches with some thread, some cute little, straight line stitches, or that blanket stitch around the edge, whether you're a sewer or gluer, if you want to add some kind of thread detail to it is what I'm saying. But, since it's fabric, I'm going to go ahead and sew around it with my sewing machine. If it was paper, y'all know me, I'd sew around it on it anyway, even on that batting with my sewing machine. I'll show you here what it looks like. I've got both sides done here. I think it just adds that little country charm to it, right? I love how that looks. Yes, I love this fabric, sticky fabric paper. I wish I could find it some more. Now I'm taking the Waverly Antique Wax. I'm going to mix that with some water and some wire here. I'm just taking a big chunk of wire. We'll come back to the Waverly Antique Wax. And what I did is just a big chunk of wire, large handle paintbrush, and on each end of the cut end, I just wrap it around a paintbrush. Both sides, I've got a piece here already done, like that, and then I'm just going to cut it in the middle. You could leave it whole. That's why I showed it to you whole, but I'm going to cut it in the middle. And I'm actually going to drill into, I'll find a drill bit that fits that wire and drill into the top of that rolling pin. But if you didn't want to do that, you could put it right in that little gap there, because we'll cover that up on the back too and make it look nice. So now we're back to the Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water. I'm sorry, I actually craft like this. I go back and forth. And I mixed it with water so it's really, really kind of toned down. I don't want it really, really dark. And I paint along the sides. I paint the whole rolling pin. The back I do completely, because the only part we're going to cover is along the rolling pins to make it look nice. And then on the front, I just go around the edges, because your paper or your fabric or whatever you want to use, that's going to cover that center up. Okay, and while that Waverly Antique Wax with water is drying, I'm going to go ahead and drill my little holes in here in the top. I know you can't really see anything except the top of the drill bit, but I'm doing it. It's like, why am I showing this? You can't even see it. But I'm doing it both sides, and I kind of drill in at an angle because I want my antennas, even though you can bend the wire, I still kind of want them to go in and at an angle so it looks at an angle from the top, if you know what I mean. So let's go back to the Beacon Quick Grip Glue. I've cut 2 pieces of this macrame cord from Dollar Tree, and this is how we're going to cover the back. So once my antique wax is set, off camera, I'm going to distress that. I wanted to show you that up ahead. But as you can see what I'm doing, or ahead of time, as you can see what I'm doing, I'm just adding that Beacon Quick Grip Glue right in between the wings and the rolling pin, and just letting it just really fill in that gap area so that we know we have enough glue to keep those wings glued on. And then I'm putting the rope right along the top of that to cover up all those odds and ends of glue. Now, here it is, all distressed, just a tiny bit of distressing, but that way it looks nice. See, the back looks nice with those ropes. It's finished off. I think it looks pretty decent. All right, now I'm going to take Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth. I'm mixing it with a lot of water here, watering it down. And then I'm going to take a fan brush here. In just a minute, we're going to add some splatters. First off, I'm taking my Fabri-Tac glue and I'm gluing down our design element for the top of our wings. I think this turned out really cute. And I know with the fabric I chose, it would look really cute in like a little girl's room for spring and summer. But you could use any, fabrics you want if you want it more adult-like. But I really wanted kind of a floral look. All right, so my fan brush, I dip it in the paint, I wipe off the excess, and then I tap the handle of the paintbrush to get splatters on it. And I'm going ahead and going around the side on the wood, the back, and the front. Because if you go to splatter the front, it's going to probably get on the sides of the wood anyway. So why not make it look intentional? And then splattering on the back makes it all look all nice and completely finished off, right? So I thought it gave a little something. I don't know, the pink just looked a little bit just plain, so I thought the splatter would add something. And now I'm taking, a big button. It's about a 1-inch size, and I'm just adding some crochet string in the center. You don't have to. I just like my holes to be filled. Every once in a while, like 1% of the time, I won't put something in the middle. But most of the time, I got to have something through the center to actually make it look like I stitched it on. And then I'm taking some crochet trim from Dollar Tree. I'm just tying a little bow, and I'm going to glue that bow kind of right in the center of that mini rolling pin. Just give it a little something there. It just needs something more, right? Have some nice long tails on it, and I'll glue my button right in the center of that bow, and then I'm gonna just add a little bit of splatter on the button so it looks all put together. And then I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna glue in our antennas. Now, since it's so small, I'm actually gonna use super glue here. One, because it'll kind of go in and fill the holes, right? And plus it won't seep as much out the top because it's so runny, it'll just kind of fall into that hole. And then I just got to hold the wires in for just a second. And that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 2. For this project, I'm going to use these 3 fluffy fabrics I got off Etsy. I will have links down below for you. So, if you want to get some of these, they will be there for you. I want 3 different colors. You can use all the same color. You can use different fabrics, whatever you want. And then I'm going to use some batting, of course. And I've got this placemat I found at a thrift store. I love the texture. I'm going to use it for some greenery on top of some carrots we're making. I do have a pattern for you, although you could, freehand it yourself. It just looks like a skinny pizza slice. But it is about 10 inches long, and then across the top of that straight edge is about 5 inches wide if you wanted to draw it yourself. So I have everything already pre-cut out. 1 carrot's actually already done because you wanted to know that. But for each carrot, you need 2 pieces of fabric and then 2 optional pieces of batting. So if you're a gluer, you're going to take 1 piece of fabric, 1 piece of batting. You're going to glue those together. All right, and then you're going to do the same with the other side. Fabric, batting, glue together. Then you're going to put both of those together, whether or not you added batting. And right along the 2 long edges between the 2 fabric, you're going to glue that down and keep the top open for stuffing. If you're a sewer, you're going to do that same routine of putting those fabrics in that order and then sew along the 2 long edges, keeping that top open for stuffing. Stuffing I'm going to use today is from Dollar Tree. I actually really like the stuffing. It's good quality, it's soft, it's almost luxurious, and this stuff, even though it's 4 ounces, goes a long way. So fill your carrot up to about 1 inch from the top. We want about 1 inch where there's no stuffing so that we can put our carrot top inside of it, okay? So both my carrots stuffed. I'm going to use, again, like I said, the placemat I got from a thrift store. It's about 3 3/4 inch in width, and then the length is about, I think, 5.5 or so. You could use any fabric you want. Like I said, I just love the texture of this. And then I'm just going probably about every 1/4 inch, and I'm cutting it down till about 1/2 inch from the bottom. We're going to leave that. We're not going to cut all the way down the bottom. Leave about 1/2 inch remaining at that bottom, and you can make these as wide as you want. But 1/4 inch did fine. And also what I love about this placemat is the wrong side is kind of a lighter green. So when some of that light green shows from the top part, it looks kind of fun. So here both my carrots are stuffed and ready to go. All right. Again, about 1 inch from the top, even though the stuffing's poking out, it is 1 inch. You're going to take your carrot top and kind of scrunch it in the center, and I want to place it in here so it's kind of got like an arc, a downward arc, and then you can glue or sew it in. But now when you do that, try to keep it in toward the center about 1 inch from each edge, and then, like I said, kind of those outer edges, kind of tuck them in a little bit more so you kind of have a nice little arc going. All right, now what I'm going to use are these tags I printed onto some fabric and I sewed around them. I'll explain that a little bit more in the last project because actually this was going to be the last project and you were going to see the other project first, but I flipped them around, so I'll explain that in a moment. And I'm just taking some ink I have left over on this ink dauber and just inking around the edges just to kind of, give it a little bit of coloration there. I think that looks a little better, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Right? Get both of those ready. And then I have a couple of buttons here. Of course, I'll add some twine through the center and then a couple of longer pieces of twine, probably, couple feet of twine. So what we're going to do, if your greenery is in the top, you've sewn or glued along the top, and now we're going to take that twine right about where you sewed or glued. And make sure your ends, as you go to tie the twine, you know, I'm wrapping it around front and back 2 or 3 times, those ends are going to want to fold in, but make sure you make them tuck out. So you see you kind of have this cute little pattern of carrot at the top. You see what I'm saying? So that's why we left kind of that little 1-inch detail, not only to sew your greenery in, but also so it gives us a little bit of poof coming out the top of our twine. I'm going to say it again, poof. So kind of straighten things out and then make a little bow. I'm going to just glue that down a little bit. I've got about a minute before that sets up. And then what I'll do, it's still wet. I'm going to glue the tag in right in between those 2 areas and then finish my bow here. Okay. And I'll do the same thing on both sides, wrapping around the top about 1 inch down from the bottom, straightening my ends. I go about, 2 times around, bringing it back around the front, straighten those edges so we have that cute little poof at the top. Adding a little glue here underneath my knot. And then I'll add the little fabric down there. Also on the fabric, I added a little batting to it as well, just to give it a little country look. And I'll kind of put that underneath that twine area there and finish off the bow. Because I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, I add a little batting to the back, but you don't have to. And then, of course, trimming my tails a little bit on my bows. And then we're going to take and kind of crinkle that tag up a little bit. So I'm just crinkling it up a little bit and adding a little glue so it stays in place. Then we're going to add our little button in the center of the bows. In the final looks, you're going to see a little bit of moss coming out at the top of the button. I thought it just needed a little bit more decoration. I did do the tags in order so it makes sense. It says Spring Bunny Hop. Did that on purpose. Once I add the last button, that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 3. For this project, I have these fabrics from Jubilee Fabrics. This is from Hobby Lobby, and then this just plain color is also from Jubilee Fabrics. I have some batting, and for the background, this is just a quilt I bought off Wayfair I've been cutting up, so you could use any fabrics you want. The shapes are going to be eggs. Now, I was originally going to do 2 egg pillows, but I thought, okay, let's try to do something a little different. So I've got a free printable for you for the large egg and the small egg. One, we will make a pillow out of the large egg, and the smaller will be a wall hanging. So for the pattern, here's the large egg pattern. You'll cut it out and then tape the 2 together at the dash line. And what you'll do is fold your fabric in half, and on the fold, you'll take your pattern, which will be a half of a pattern, place that on the fold, and then you cut that out. If you want your pattern whole in its entirety so you don't have to fold your fabric, what you can do is print it out, cut it out, tape it at the seams, trace one side on poster board, flip it, trace the other side, and then cut it out so you have a full pattern. You'll have the same thing for the small egg pattern as well. You'll do the same procedure with it, whether you want it folded on fabric or trace it to make the full size. So you've got 2 patterns there. This is what the small size looks like. Okay, so we're going to work simultaneously between both sizes of eggs. So this is the large egg. I've got my 2 pieces cut out and 2 pieces of batting. You'll sandwich the batting in between, just like we did on the carrots. Now for the pattern pieces of fabric on top, I took this egg pattern, I cut it out, and then I cut my fabric about a 1/2 inch shorter all the way around. And also for my pattern pieces on top, back to the egg, you could use the smaller egg for your pattern pieces on top, but it's about 1 inch shorter all the way around, so it's your choice. I only wanted to go about 1/2 inch shorter. Now for the top piece as well, I wanted 2 fabrics, so I took folded my pattern in half here, not in half, about 3/4 and 1/4 to cut out my fabrics for this. So here's my bottom piece. It's about 1/4 of the egg, right? The smaller egg, and then the top piece is about 3/4, but you could cut it however you want. You could use 1 fabric, 2 fabric, 3 fabric, however you want to do it. And then for your batting, you're going to cut it out whole in its entirety, and in your however many fabrics, designer fabrics you want to lay on top. Now, if you're a gluer, what you're going to do, basically like the carrots, you're going to glue all your batting pieces together if you like that, and then glue your fabric to your batting pieces, okay? And then I'm going to add some trim across that center divide so we can hide those ends. And mine's a little thin, so I cut 2 pieces. If you're a gluer, you're going to glue that all the way across and then tuck it in around the back on the sides and glue it around the back side. And then you're going to take that whole ensemble and glue it to your pillow top. Okay, if you're a sewer, I'm going to go ahead and glue the trim on. Okay, and then I'm going to sew my egg on just to the top layer of our main pillow fabric. Okay, so first off, I am using, which I forgot to say, 2 pieces of fabric for each one. It's just choice. You really only need 1 layer. I just like it to look a little thicker and quilted, that kind of thing. So I'm going to just kind of glue my fabric pieces together here. Okay, gluing all my pieces together. Got that down, and then we'll go ahead and glue on the cute little eyelet lace. And I know you're wondering where I got that. I got that at a garage sale, probably 30 yards of it for like $2 like 8 years ago. So anyway, you could use whatever trim you want. So I'm sorry I don't have a link for that. So I'm just using a light glue across the top because it will shine through because that lace is thin, light layer, gluing it across the top to hold it in place, and then around the sides of that first layer of fabric, and then of course taking it to the sewing machine to sew that ensemble onto the first layer of the pillow fabric. Okay, I don't want to glue all the other layers of batting and stuff of the back pillow piece yet. We just want to get this front decorative piece into place. Okay, and if you're a gluer and you want to add some cute country stitching, you can do some, glue everything on and then do some hand stitches through the layers of your fabric pieces and your main pillow piece, the top of your main pillow piece. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I'm sewing here, you could do hand stitches in this fashion. Sometimes I feel like I'm really jumbling my words, but maybe between my words and watching, you know what I'm saying. Because I know we have some gluers out there that like to hand sew, and it would be really cute to add some hand stitches like this if you wanted. All right, we have a little Bella break here. She wanted to come see what Mommy was doing, so we just give her some little pets, and then she'll join us throughout this session here. But she's super cute. Love her. All right, so I've got it all sewn. It's going to be easier to see on the back here. Sewn it onto that first layer of the main pillow. If you're a gluer and you're using batting on that main pillow, you're going to glue the batting to the front layer of your pillow base and the batting to the back layer of your pillow base. Put both of those pieces together and then glue around the edge between the 2 layers all the way around, leaving about a hand width opening for stuffing. If you're a sewer, I'm going to sew around it on that back layer of fabric there, okay? And then leave a pillow open for stuffing. Here's what mine looks like, all sewed, ready to go. Off camera, I'm going to go ahead and stuff it as stuffed full as I want. And then, as I said, if you're a gluer, glue that opening closed. If you're a sewer, sew it closed. We're going to set it aside. Now we're going to move on to the other egg, our little wall hanging. Get Bella out of the way here a little bit. You get some feet and tail in the picture. We're layering it together. We've got 2 pieces of fabric, 2 pieces of batting, just like we layered the first one. My top piece, I've got 2 pieces of batting. It's about a 1/2 inch smaller all the way around. Again, I cut that top piece smaller. I've cut this almost in half. It's still about probably, 3/4 and 1/4, however I want to do it. And we're going to use some cute lace here. Bella's going to hold on to us for us and play with it a little bit. I can't get it away from her. Bite, bite, bite. But anyway, cute little trim I got from Joann's. And also, what I want to do is layer my back piece, layer some batting, and this is 1-inch cotton batting. I get it off of eBay. I'll leave a link down below. And I actually kind of split that in half, so it's 1/2-inch batting. And then I layer the other piece of batting on top, which is batting you can get from Walmart, and then layer the other fabric piece on top of that so you can see how really thick it is, and it looks all quilted and yummy. Again, for my decorative fabric on top, you saw that I'm using 2 pieces each, but you don't have to, okay? So if you're a gluer, same kind of process here. Take your glue and you're going to glue your batting pieces together for the top decorative part. Glue that to your fabric pieces, or if you're not using batting, then just glue your fabric piece down. But first, make sure you get your trim in place. Glue it down, wrap it around the sides, and then you can glue your whole ensemble down on top, or just, your batting and fabric or just fabric to the top edge. I'm going to sew it just like I did the last one, same process, but I want to just kind of, glue my fabric into place here first. It'll help hold it, and especially because I've got 2 layers here, get everything glued. It'll be easier to take to the sewing machine. I don't have to pin everything. Perfect. And then I'm going to add my cute crochet trim here, kind of spot glue that on, and it'll stay on there, and I don't have to sew across that trim or anything. Like that. And then wrap it around the sides. I'm wrapping this around fabric and batting because I chose to use some batting. Hopefully this is all understandable. And then I will take this to the sewing machine on the top layer only, just like we did the last one. Here it is all sewn. Again, you could hand stitch that if you want. You can see it better on the back side. And then we're going to put all of this together. If you're a gluer, you're going to glue your back batting. If you use the thicker batting in between, if not, glue it all together. But first, this is a wall hanging, so we want to add a little hanger here. I'm just using some crochet trim here, tied a little bow. I'm going to place it at the top and center it. So whether you're using the thick batting or just, batting by the yard from Walmart, whatever you want to use for a hanger, glue it in the center of your wall hanging, all your pieces. I'm just gluing mine in place in between that batting there, so it's just direct center so it hangs nicely. All right? And then glue everything together if you're a gluer. All right, I'm going to take mine and sew around that outer edge there. Okay, so I have it all sewed. You can see how nice and stiff it is with that batting in there. And for sewers, when I went through where the ribbon was for the hanger, I kind of back stitched back and forth a little bit just to give it a little extra security. But if you're a gluer, it will hold just fine. So let's add some cute rolled roses to both of our eggs here. I've already got a few done, and yes, I'm going to show you how to do it. It's fun, it's simple, it's easy, and they can be a little tighter, a little looser, however you like it. And then I have a couple of ribbons we're going to add as well to each of these. So here's 2 I have left to roll, so let's do that. I'm using 2 layers of fabric. One is sufficiently plenty, but see how this one's tighter and this one's looser? It all just depends how you roll it, okay? You'll need some glue, hot glue or a Fabri-Tac glue, and I like to use some tweezers to help roll it together, all right? So you're going to start at the end. You're going to want to start really skinny. So you have like a really skinny tail here. And as you go in, you're just going to cut it into a spiral. And as you cut, see how my spiral is getting bigger and bigger. The outer layer is getting bigger and bigger. So you're going to keep doing that till you get down to the bottom and you just have a nice little tiny circle left, maybe a 1-inch circle. Okay, and I'll roll it up here on the table so you can see what it looks like. Just like this all the way around. Easy. And you're going to take your tweezers at that little skinny end, and you're just going to keep your tweezers pinched and begin to roll this onto your tweezers. Now make sure you roll that bottom edge. Keep that as together as you can so it's all even at that bottom edge. You know what I'm saying? So as you roll it, that bottom edge stays even on your tweezers. It's okay if it gets a little bit off, but just try to keep it. And see, try to keep it even, and the last little bit was easier to me, just hold the tweezers and roll it with my other hand. All right, so now it's really tightly rolled. This is how you get it loose. I just lay it on the table, and I just begin to untwist that rose a little bit right in the center. Okay, messing with it a little bit, holding that bottom so it doesn't all come unravel down there. Even take my tweezers and undo the center a little bit. This is what it looks like up close. Okay, and then take it all together, one piece, flip it over, and then add some glue in that center really good and all around those cut edges. And then lay that little 1-inch circle you kind of got on the bottom together. And when I flip it over, I'll press the center down in to make sure that glue got there and glued to that bottom layer. Okay, let's do our last one a little bit quicker this time. And we're going to start skinny and go wider as we go, getting down to about a 1-inch circle. I'm going to lay it down here all spiraled up. Going to grab our tweezers at that skinny end. We're going to roll it around. I'm loosely rolling it here toward the end. 2 layers just kind of gives it a little bit more fringe, but again, it could be 1 piece of fabric. And then I'm going to lay it down on top of that circle and untwist it a little bit. And each one's going to look different depending on how untwisted you untwist it. Right? using my tweezers in the center to untwist it a little bit more so it's not so tight. And then I'll show a close-up right here. You can see they look totally different even though it was the same process. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm gluing down and kind of in a trio, and I'm kind of gluing these two, and I'll do it on both. I put a little glue here on the side of the flower so I can kind of tilt them upward together and kind of glue them on their side a little bit. So I'm not gluing them totally flat on the pillows. See how it's kind of a little side? Then I'm going to glue my little bow down here. And I'll trim off the tails as long as I want them to be. I'll put my other little flower down here. Now remember, 2 layers. Glue those 2 bottom layers of that little 1-inch circle together, right? Remember to do that if you have 2 layers of fabric like I'm doing. And then trimming off my tails. And now here was from the last one, the last project I had printed onto fabric. You can see the ones I'm going to use for this, and then it says Carrot Spring Bunny. Those are the ones I used in the last project. I have a link down below to my blog where it shows you on the same blog post as the free patterns. There'll be a link to how to print on fabric using an inkjet printer. Don't know if this process works on a laser printer, but you're certainly welcome to try it. But I know this works well on an inkjet printer, so if you want to check that out. So this has been glued down. The fabric onto this back paper for probably a month, and it just peels right up. I'm going to use a little batting on here. So this is how I did the first one, because the first one I didn't show you this process. And I'm just trimming it. And then this fabric I've got here, kind of a linen-y type fabric, I can fray around the edges really easily. And then I'll add a piece of batting. I think I'm going to put one on this one as well. I wasn't going to, but I decided it's going to look cute here. I'll add a piece of batting to the back here. So I'm cutting batting for both my tags. I know they both say the same thing, but they're 2 different types of things, you know. So, and then if you're a gluer, you can glue that together. I'm going to sew around it off camera. Okay, so here's what that looks like. Nice and easy. And if you glue it together and then add some hand stitches. And then now we're on the wall hanging. So I'm going to add my 2 little roses. Again, I'm doing the 2 at the top kind of slanted so they're, you know, glued in like a triangle. Add my little bow in between those 2, right up underneath. Just tuck it in there. And then I'm going to add my little fabric tag there. And then glue my little rose flower down. And then once I do that, that makes both of these cute eggs complete. So as I usually say, I hope you liked all the projects I came up with today. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which one was your favorite. Now you actually have 4 to choose from, because remember, the egg is either a pillow or a wall hanging, even though they have the same design, but they're still separate in their entirety, right? You might like those eggs, one or the other. You might like the butterfly. You might like the carrot. You might like all 4. That's the only choices I have for you. Sorry about that. If you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another DIY from me. And please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. When you are dealing with a hard issue or something difficult coming at you, how are you supposed to handle it? How do you receive strength to get through it? First, you handle it with God by your side. He is your God that will lead you where you need to go and where you need to be. Thankfully, God has an unfailing love for you. He waits for you. He longs for you. He created you with this unfailing love, and He created you to be with Him. In the Bible, the book of Isaiah, chapter 43 and verse 1, God says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine." The word summon is an action word. It means to call forth. God has called you forth to be His. In the beginning, when man sinned, man fell away from God, but Jesus gave His life to give you that intimacy once again so that your relationship with God could be renewed. A relationship is a connection of 2 people. A connection is a link. A link enables communication between 2 people. You are linked to God. God is linked to you, and the 2 of you shall always be bonded together by the blood of Jesus. He always wants that connection with you. He wants your companionship, your prayers. He will always want you to be His. He will never sever the link that bonds you. Second, you must understand that God has a desire and a willingness to help you, and He is at work continually within you. You simply ask, and He freely gives. God will give you all you need. He always promises to be by your side, and He will never forsake you. In the Bible, the book of Isaiah, chapter 43 and verse 2, God says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." Don't forget these words. They will give you refuge as you hold them in your heart and mind during challenging times. Also, don't make things more difficult by letting your link be separated from God because you're trying to do things on your own. The only way to get through your situation is to do it with God, and the only way to receive His strength during the trial is to let your guard down and allow God to help you. Remember, He summoned you, called you by name. He loves you, and He desires to help you. You simply need to trust and ask for His guidance. Ask for His wisdom. Ask for His protection, and He will show you the way. Take hold of God and what He offers you, and don't let go. Be encouraged this day. Be encouraged in Him, through Him, with Him, because with Him, all things are possible. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.